Hello, beautiful friend. It is David Ault, and I'm so glad that you are taking a little bit of your time to join me here for the gathering. I'm always appreciative, always honored that you do that. And I want to share with you that I understand your overwhelm. I understand your overwhelm. And my intention today is not to give you a quick fix, not to give you 3 steps of how to get rid of or manage your overwhelm. I just want to acknowledge the fact that I get it, I understand it. And your experience of overwhelm, whatever it is, whatever degree by which you label it, is not because you're doing anything wrong. Overwhelm is something that happens in the shared human experience. And sometimes the overwhelm is a product of, we could say, our immediate lived experience. All of the things that are going on right now in real time. Sometimes the overwhelm is sort of a generalized mainstay that comes from, an ancestral imprinting. And sometimes that overwhelm is sparked by what we might even call our primordial instincts. That part of us that's still very primitive in there. It's in our DNA that causes or triggers or invokes these fight or flight responses. All of these things are activated when we don't feel safe, when we get very, very concerned about our survival, when that which is fearful to us, that which is uncertain or seems out of our control, gets elevated. And it all just accumulates when things aren't going our way. Anything that feels like it's outside of our control is primed to continue to expand all and evolve and balloon in this experience of overwhelm. I get it. I get it. And we all have our techniques. And sometimes those techniques are conscious, and sometimes those techniques are unconscious with regards to trying to explain it, to try to fix it. And there's so many valid, beautiful paths that are available to us. There's understanding about epigenetics and attachment history and neurobiology and cultural and societal conditioning, even things like spiritual amnesia. They're all valid. And the truth is I'm not an expert on any of those things. I may have dabbled in those things myself in order to try to explain or manage my overwhelm. But I want to invite you today to maybe set all of those techniques aside, all of those labels aside, all those, the need to identify the reason for, and just kind of sit here with me for a moment and go, it's just a part of life. There isn't any sentient being that hasn't felt what you're feeling. That's kind of wild, isn't it? It's not, again, because you are doing anything wrong. It's why certain teachings within Buddhism really speak to me. Because when I'm told, like, for example, the 5 hindrances in Buddhism, the explanation that is given is that you come from that which is the infinite. We come from that. Our source of beingness is, by many definitions, God, infinite intelligence. We come from that which is infinite into like a siphoning down into something that's finite. And the whole, I guess you could call it the whole rule of the game of doing that is a sort of squeezing or a forgetfulness because you're going from non-dual to dual. And we're dropped into this human experience, not by happenstance, not by accident, not even by cruelty, but for some inexplicable divine design. It's the dance. It's going from being the all into the absolute, into a relative. And in that process, there is a sort of forgetfulness, a veil, if you will, the Maya. And here we are, constantly in overwhelm because there's something that isn't just quite right. It's sort of a general malaise, a forgetfulness, and we go about all the many paths of the mountain. And what is the mountain? The mountain is just returning back to remembering what we are. However you do that, whatever is your form, your fashion. And if part of that journey up the mountain is I'm going to spend a lot of time in this particular field of identification. I may spend a lot of time astrologically. I may spend a lot of time scientifically with epigenetics. I may spend a lot of time in spiral dynamics. I may spend a lot of, and all of those things are beautiful. Call them what? Techniques. Call them anything that will help to pacify the overwhelm. And it's good. And it's good. It's very good. It's helpful to a point. And when we reach the point, or I always say the back of the cave, and then we go, I feel like I've exhausted all of the research. I feel like I've exhausted all of the techniques. I feel like I have stuck every pin into the cushion of trying to understand and make myself better. And still we hurt. And still we have overwhelm. And we have explored all types of prayer and all types of understanding of God. And we have looked at all of the multiple beautiful teachings of all the religions. And still, there is something in there that cannot keep the overwhelm at bay. And I find that the one thing is to look at the overwhelm and just to understand it as phenomena. It's phenomena. What is that? All of the happenings. There is nothing within this system of being human that can stop happenings, that can stop activity, that can even stop our perceptions of all of that. And so, if we can find a way to, once we've exhausted all of the other techniques, to just pause and to breathe. And here's a beautiful word: to rest. Rest. To rest means not to fix. To rest means observe, observe the phenomena, and begin to rest in the nature of the phenomena. The nature of the phenomenon simply means that phenomena is constant. The rise and fall, the ebb and the flow. The ebb we want to define conceptually as being without. The flow we want to define as abundance, manifestation, good times. If we become too attached to either identifying ourselves as someone who's always in the ebb and we got to get to the flow, then we're not being fully present. And if we've tasted the flow and we go, ooh, this is good, I want this all the time, only to understand that the nature of the flow is to also have ebb. Then now what we've created is this is good and this is bad, and we've only enhanced the dualism. If we want to say, well, this technique is this is the technique, this is it, right? This is the end all be all, only to get to a point where you will exhaust that technique. All of it is a sort of a beautiful trap. And the paradox of the trap is go into the trap. Go into it and fully flesh it out, fully study it, fully absorb yourself in it, And the beautiful thing is when you do get to the back of the cave, and you will, to not judge yourself by going, something's missing. That's natural. That is so natural, my friend. In order to grow, one must outgrow. And it's scary at times when we have become so identified in the thing that we have outgrown. Oftentimes, what that means is we want to go back a little bit and we want to try to fix, work harder, work smarter. And it isn't about any of that. It's about understanding that the natural evolution of what we are is, and even growth is a misleading word because it isn't so much about growth or growing into something that you weren't. It's about returning in an expanded way from the shrinkage that happened. You know, you came from the infinite to the finite, and now it's sort of a reversal where you're going from the finite back to the infinite. So you're not necessarily growing as much as you are returning. You're returning to yourself. And in these returnings, there's often new forms of overwhelm that just feel so scary. The world appears to become even more chaotic and more in need of fixing. And what we do is we rest in the nature of the fact that that phenomena will not cease. This does not mean then that we aren't engaged. It's that we become less attached to the need to fix the phenomena as much as to understand it. And in understanding it, we now approach it. We go into the field of its activity, not from a fight or flight, not from a primordial instinct, not from something that buckles down and gets more and more committed to an ancestral narrative, and not becoming more self identified with all of the things that are going on in the present day circumstances, the immediate lived experience. But to just go, you know what? All of that is true. It's relatively true, and it's still not the absolute nature of me. So I get to love myself in the overwhelm. I get to observe the overwhelm and then not own it. Not own it. Not claim it as mine. Not claim it as something that needs to be fixed. And even this, even listening to this, might cause overwhelm because we're so sometimes committed to the human the human labels and identities. But I'm the one who fixes, I'm the one who helps, I'm the one who does all these things. Great, great. And eventually you begin to see that that too has an endpoint. And what we do is we surrender all of those identities. We surrender all of that somebody-ness. We actually go to a different kind of primordial essence. And that's the one that is creation itself, not the primordial existence of being a human, not that, not that primitive thing, but the primordial understanding of what I am, the genesis of life itself. That's how I'm going to show up. Today, I'm going to show up. Here's the affirmation, if you want to use a word for it. Today, I'm going to show up as the primordial essence of life itself. Today, I'm going to show up as the primordial essence of life itself. What that means is I'm going to rest in the nature of phenomena and I'm just going to love. I'm going to love. I'm going to love. I'm going to love. I'm going to love this. I'm going to love its overwhelm so that I don't run the risk of trying to pull it down and spend a lot of energy and time trying to figure out how to manage it. I'm just going to love the feeling that's going on here. I'm going to love it. And in the loving, I'm going to notice how quickly, like vapor, it becomes because I'm not holding on to it. I know you're in overwhelm. The overwhelm is not you. The the what you are. And for those who have the ears to be able to hear, what you are is so beyond description. You are this primordial essence. You are the genius seed. And in the fertilization being the part of us that remembers that, the remembering is kind of like the soil that encapsulates the genius seed. The more that you remember, the more that I remember, the more that we collectively remember who we are, then what we are grows, has the ability to not be stifled anymore, to not be pushed aside for another time, but is allowed to, regardless of what the outer world is dictating, to rise and to grow and to shade, nurture, feed, clothe, soothe, remind everyone else of their inherent gifts, of their inherent nature, of their inherent beauty. And I do believe, I love the idea of the ripple effect, that the more that there are those who are participating in that kind of surrendering, it may not get broadcast on the news. It may not compete necessarily at the same frequency of the noise that you are hearing, but it's there and it's doing its thing. And the more there are of us who return home to that primordial nature, then the more that we can begin to witness that which is heaven on earth, which is not taken a holiday, which is not eradicated or gone. It is here. And I want you. Ooh, there's the fixer in me. I, I want you to feel that. And of course, I must feel that for myself. May you, may you find all of the stimulus, all of the signs, all of the many wonders to remind you that you are not just enough, but at your primordial core, you are life itself. And so it is.